There's a symbol on your keyboard worth more than the wheel, more than electricity, maybe more than the internet itself. It's just a small circle. 0. Without it, your phone dies. Banks disappear. GPS stops working. Rockets never leave the ground. This video couldn't even exist. But here's what's almost impossible to believe. For thousands of years, humanity didn't know it existed. Empires rose, pyramids were built, the stars were mapped, and the single most important number in mathematics was nowhere to be found. So who finally discovered it? Historians think they know, but the evidence isn't as simple as most people assume. And by the end of this investigation, you may never look at a single digit the same way again. Let's find out if ancient India really did discover 0 first. If 0 is one of the most important ideas ever created, logic says one of history's great civilizations should have gotten there first. So treat this like a case file. 4 suspects, 1 missing number. Suspect 1, Egypt. Picture a scribe carving symbols into stone at the edge of the Nile. Builders precise enough to align 2 million blocks to the cardinal directions. Surely they cracked it. They didn't. Egyptian scribes had symbols for 1, 10, 100, 1,000, but nothing for nothing. If a value was missing, they left a blank space or skipped it entirely. Egypt is cleared, but the next civilization is where historians almost solve the mystery. Suspect 2, Babylon. They had astronomy. They predicted eclipses. They gave us the 360-degree circle and the 60-minute hour, units you still use every time you check a clock. And around 2,300 years ago, they created a symbol that looked like it might finally become 0. For a moment, history looks solved, until historians notice one tiny problem. That symbol never appeared at the end of a number. You couldn't add it. You couldn't multiply by it. It wasn't a number at all, so it was punctuation. A comma standing in for a value nobody had given an identity. So close, and still not it. Suspect 3, Greece. If anyone should have invented 0, it was Greece. Birthplace of Euclid, Ptolemy, and formal logic itself. Instead, they rejected it completely. To Greek philosophers, a number represented a real quantity of real things. How could you have a number for the absence of things? Aristotle himself argued that true nothingness was philosophically impossible. Wait, think about that. The civilization that invented logic decided nothing didn't make logical sense. Suspect 4, Rome. Picture a Roman merchant hunched over a ledger trying to divide one large sum by another using nothing but Roman numerals, and getting nowhere. An empire spanning nearly 2 million square miles and a numeral system that couldn't handle basic division. Quick question, if you'd lived in ancient Rome, how would you even write the number 1005? There's no clean way. That's what happens to an entire mathematical system when nobody is solved for 0. 4 suspects, 4 alibis. Every civilization we've just questioned could count everything that existed. Not one of them could count nothing, which means the civilization that finally solved this mystery isn't one most people would guess. And the first clue wouldn't surface for almost 1,300 more years, buried, forgotten, and found completely by accident. The story doesn't continue in a palace or a royal library. It begins with the sound of a shovel striking something buried underground. The year is 1881. The place is a quiet village called Bakhshali in what is now Pakistan. A farmer digging in a field feels his shovel hit something that isn't stone and isn't soil. He pulls it free. Fragile sheets of birch bark, brittle with age, covered edge to edge in handwriting that hasn't seen daylight in centuries. He has no idea what he's holding. Historians now call it the Bakhshali Manuscript. Scattered across its pages are dozens of small dot symbols used as placeholders inside numbers. Sound familiar? It should. It's the exact same wall that stopped Egypt, Babylon, Greece, and Rome. Except this time someone was actually climbing over it. Here's where it gets even stranger. In 2017, scientists at the University of Oxford ran radiocarbon dating on the manuscript's birch bark. The results stunned historians. Some of the material appeared to date back as far as the 3rd or 4th century CE, centuries earlier than anyone had assumed. If accurate, that pushes the earliest known 0-like symbol back further than any textbook currently claims. But wait, not everyone agrees. Manuscripts get recopied generation after generation. Old bark doesn't automatically mean old mathematics. This is a live, unresolved dispute among historians, and a fair investigation doesn't pretend it's settled when it isn't. Here's the part historians still argue about, but also the part that doesn't matter as much as you'd think, because a placeholder was never the real breakthrough. It's a clue, not a confession. One man was about to do something no mathematician before him had ever managed. He wasn't going to invent a new symbol, he was going to change the meaning of nothing itself. After thousands of years of failure, after Egypt, Babylon, Greece, and Rome had all quietly hit the same wall, the one mathematician finally did what none of them managed. His name was Brahmagupta. In the year 628 CE, in a region of northwestern India now called Rajasthan, he sat down and wrote a text called the Brahmasfuta Siddhanta. Buried inside it is a passage some historians consider one of the most important moments in the history of human thought. Brahmagupta didn't just mark 0 as an empty gap the way Babylon had, he gave it a rule book. A number plus 0 equals that number unchanged. A number minus itself equals 0. A number multiplied by 0 equals 0. Then he went further into territory no one had dared to enter. What happens when you divide by 0? A question so strange it would take mathematicians another 1,000 years to fully untangle. Modern mathematics still simply calls the answer undefined. That may sound ordinary. It wasn't. This was the first time in human history that someone treated nothing as something you could calculate. Not a gap, not an absence. A number with an identity that could sit directly beside 1, 10, or 100 inside a real equation. This should have changed the world overnight. It didn't, because history has a strange habit. Great ideas don't always spread simply because people accept them. Sometimes they spread because they survive people trying to stop them. By the 8th century CE, 0 had left India, carried west along trade routes, crossing thousands of kilometers, dozens of kingdoms, and multiple languages on the backs of traders moving through deserts toward the Middle East. It surfaced in Baghdad inside the libraries of the legendary House of Wisdom, where scholars from across the known world gathered to translate and expand the accumulated knowledge of entire civilizations. There, a Persian mathematician named Muhammad ibn Musa al-Khwarizmi came across Indian mathematics and recognized instantly what he was holding. In the early 9th century, he wrote a treatise explaining the Indian numeral system, 0 included, to the Arabic-speaking world. Here's a detail that will change how you hear a word you already use constantly. Al-Khwarizmi's own name eventually became the word algorithm, and the method he helped formalize for solving equations gave us the word algebra from the Arabic al-jabr, the reunion of broken parts. You've been saying his name your entire life without realizing it. Through scholars like him, these numerals, the same 0 through 9 sitting on your phone's clock right now, spread from Baghdad to Cairo and eventually crossed into Spain. You'd expect the greatest mathematical discovery in history to spread like wildfire. Instead, Europe tried to stop it. Picture a medieval banker in Florence, pen in hand, crossing out the strange new digits and writing Roman numerals over them instead. Because his city had banned the new system entirely. An Italian mathematician named Leonardo of Pisa, better known as Fibonacci, had encountered these numerals while studying in North Africa. Around 1202 CE, he published Liber Abaci, the Book of Calculation, urging European merchants to abandon Roman numerals for this new system, built around a strange circular symbol for nothing. Some cities banned it outright, worried these foreign digits could be forged more easily than Roman ones. 0 unsettled people on a deeper level too. A number representing nothing felt uncomfortably close to a theological paradox. How can nothing be something? By the time Europe finally accepted 0, the idea had already been traveling across continents for more than 500 years, born inside Indian mathematical tradition, formalized by Brahmagupta in the 7th century, carried into Baghdad and sharpened by Islamic scholars, smuggled into Italy by Fibonacci, banned, feared, resisted for generations, and in the end unstoppable. That wasn't the breakthrough though. The real breakthrough was much bigger, and because 0 wasn't just about to change mathematics, it was about to build the entire modern world. Tomorrow morning, you wake up, you reach for your phone and unlock it. Nothing happens, not a glitch, not a dead battery. 0 itself has disappeared. The concept gone from mathematics entirely, and without it, binary code collapses, because underneath every photo, every video, every message you've ever sent, there's nothing but long strings of 2 digits, 1 and 0. Delete 0 and you delete half of the digital universe. ATMs stop working. There's no number left to mark the line between having money and owing it. Traffic lights fail. Airplanes stay grounded because navigation math depends on a coordinate system built around a true 0 point. Hospitals lose critical monitoring systems. The stock market never opens. Within hours, the modern world begins shutting down, not slowing down. Shutting down. That's the strange power of the number. Brahmagupta wrote rules for nearly 1,400 years ago. It isn't sitting quietly in a math textbook somewhere. Picture it instead as invisible code flowing behind every screen on Earth right now, holding all of it together. So, case closed. Was it India? The evidence says India produced something no other civilization managed. Not a placeholder, not a symbol for a gap, but a fully realized mathematical 0 with rules and an identity of its own. First written down by Brahmagupta in the 7th century and possibly hinted at even earlier in the still disputed pages of the Bakhshali Manuscript. But the honest answer is more interesting than a simple yes. Babylon got close. Islamic scholars in Baghdad refined the idea and carried it across the continent. Europe fought it for centuries before finally surrendering to it. This wasn't one civilization's invention appearing out of nowhere. It was one breakthrough completed by the hands of many others across 1,000 years. Remember that tiny circle from the very beginning of this video? It looks empty. But inside that empty space sits almost every scientific breakthrough of the last 1,400 years. Every equation, every calculation, every line of code running the modern world. The most powerful idea in human history might be the one that represents absolutely nothing.